The $1,000,000 question we get asked when people are selling a property that's tenanted is, do we keep the tenants or do we ask the tenants to leave? Let's talk about it.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Way, how are we?
Billy, good you.
I'm very good, thank you. I was saying I'm feeling
Top
a
of
little
the
bit
morning.
flashbanged. All the lights in your face first thing in the morning sometimes gets you.
In
Great
the
way to
studio.
start that.
It is. And 2 good days of sunshine in Sydney, kids. We've been lucky. I think summer's
Beautiful.
officially here.
Isn't everyone just in so much more of a good mood? I personally think anyway.
Oh yeah, it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. Blue skies, not a cloud in the sky this morning. Giddy up.
Yeah, it's been solid from the weekend actually. Caught a little bit of sun at our open homes. It's beautiful. What a time! But this is a big debate to have. When selling your property, do you do it tenanted or vacant?
Yes.
We get this question all the time, Mark, from property management and a sales perspective.
Yeah. It's a killer of a question, and it's a killer of a thought that an owner has to go to. Probably one of the first thoughts an owner has after they're considering selling is, what do I do with the tenant? Do I sell it tenanted? Do I vacate it? Do I style it? It's a lot of thought goes into it, eh?
Yeah, that's right. You're and often you're lining up things like end of lease dates. Once you issue a notice, then the tenant is already thinking worst case scenario, the property is going to be sold next week, especially in this crazy market. Should I be looking to move now? And then the owner sometimes puts him or herself in a position where they have a tenant, and then the tenant wants to leave sooner than they initially expected them to.
Well, this morning we can also, this morning we can also pull out the ripcord of being the tenant in that situation as a tenant. What do you do? How do you do? And some tips to keeping in the place that you are, and hopefully selling to a new landlord. There's some thought through that as well that we're going to run through.
Yeah. So when the property does go on the market, obviously there's no guarantee that it's going to be sold to an investor. But Mark, when you're talking to tenants and we give them the 14 days notice that the property's coming on the market, are you reassuring them that don't move ship just yet? Because realistically, we do have a little bit of time before we've got some concrete news as to what the short-term future looks like, or how do you go about it?
It depends on the landlord and what the landlord's thinking and the budget the landlord has. Obviously, sometimes landlords are sort of super okay with loss of income. Sometimes landlords are strapped. That's sometimes why they're selling. So they're thinking far out. If that tenant leaves early, I'm going to lose another couple of thousand through the sales process, and until it settles, I'm going to lose another couple of thousand. So they could lose $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. And I think you've literally got to work out. Sometimes the tenant's keeping it in such rubbish condition that it's detrimental to the price. In other circumstances, we've got the dream tenant who presents it better than most owners would, allows access, nice and flexible with allowing access, and it just flows. So it really is 50. It really is touch and go.
Yeah. So you think the key to this process is from case to case, and just talking with the tenant, talking with the owner, and ultimately you're looking for the best sale price, but best overall result. So there's different ways to go about that. And like you say, there's so many different needs.
Absolutely, and you've got to I think as you sort of got to suck it and see in a lot of circumstances where so this is the way it would go. That we would be talking with the client, we'd be pitching for the business to sell the property, and the first question the client says is, what do we do about the tenant? Do you want it, Mr. Real Estate Agent, do you want it vacant? Do you want the tenant in there? And the answer, I guess the typical answer, which we wanted to go through this process on camera so people can use this and have this dialogue. But the typical answer is it really does depend on your tenant. And the only way to know is by literally having the dialogue and bringing some buyers through. So sometimes, I suggest to owners, let's do like a pre-market with the tenant. Let's have a chat with the tenant. Let's explain to the tenant that we need to work with them. We need them to help us. We can help them by making it a quick process, because if it's a shit process, it could be on the market for 8, 10, 12 weeks, and a tenant doesn't want that either. They want you in, they want you out, and they want it sold if it's got to get sold, preferably to an investor. So I think the first step, Billy, is some dialogue with the tenant. If the owner's commissioned you to sell, is some dialogue with the tenant and to see how the tenant presents the property in terms of how nice it looks for photos, how nice it looks for buyers, and how easy will they allow access. That's very dependent on what we do next.
Well, here's I reckon the best way to go about this, Mark. If you're looking for a great result and to work with the tenant, say if the tenant's in a fixed term lease, here's what we do most commonly to make this the easiest process for all. Some landlords will be in a position to offer a rent rebate for the duration of the sales process, whereby they say, here's a $50 a week rent rebate, here's a bit of an incentive, sometimes more depending on circumstance to circumstance, but here's a little bit of an incentive to make things easy, provide access sort of 2 times a week when the agent needs it, and overall that in most cases is when we see the best selling price and the quickest result, meaning the tenant's not inconvenienced week after week through open homes and all these things. It's nice, quick, and everyone's happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and look, I think it's for a tenant, it's in the lease that the property may or could be sold. The owner has the right, but it's definitely an inconvenience for the tenants. The rebate, a rental rebate, can take some of that sharpness off the inconvenience. Although another thing, guys and girls out there, that I could suggest is a 2-stage rebate. So it happens weekly, and it's in 2 stages. So for instance, you've suggested $50. I could, as a landlord, I could say, look, let's make it $100. We're going to do $50 just because it's on the market. And each week, my real estate agent's going to give you another $50 if the presentation of the property is good and the access of the property is good. So what actually happens is the tenant starts to push a little bit, because they don't have it automatically by default, the whole $100. So each week they're more inclined to to say yes for access, pushing to say let's present the property a little bit better, and they're getting it off. Having said that, I reckon as a landlord, what you've just suggested is one of the smartest things you can do, because it shows consideration you just thought about it. And also, I don't think you can be too generous in this circumstance. So, your minimum weekly rent's going to be $500 or $600 in most areas of Sydney, with your medium rents. Now, even if you did $200 or $300, I would be jumping through hoops if I was a tenant with that sort of rebate coming in weekly that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, the consideration is the beauty of it, and that's what goes the long way with a tenant, because some landlords, Mark, will be thinking, I really want to sell vacant, and get some ideas of sending crazy rent increases with a 60-day notice, of course, and it can sometimes just go the complete other way, where the tenant almost feels a little bit overwhelmed. Property's gone on the market. Now there's a huge rent increase coming in, and almost just curls up into a ball, and things like access just become really hard to get. So the way you go about it is the trick of the trade here.
Yeah, and I think that a landlord's default position is to get rid of the tenant when they're selling. It's really funny. They just think it's the automatic thing to do. But I think, you may have, I think spatially some buyers need to have furniture in there to see where, if a dining could fit or if a double bed could fit or something like that. So I think spatially it's nice having it in there. Having said that, if it just looks like shit, it's just your tenant's got to go. And what the tenant really doesn't care about cleanliness. They really don't care about tidiness, or presentation of a property. Respectfully, that's just that's their home. That's how they want to live, but it's not right for selling purposes. That being the case, tenant out.
Yeah, and a proactive agent doesn't just send a rent increase and a termination and leave it at that for 90 days. Often we'll be on the phone sending out appropriate properties that we manage, because we've got a big rental roll, that lots of suitable properties that they might already be living in similar areas. So a proactive agent will be, sending through appropriate properties, making it easy where possible. Because at the end of the day, everyone's going to win from this situation.
Yeah, and you know what, the biggest thing is, Billy, and I think before we sign off, the big thing to say to people that are selling is communication. Your agent has to be fluid, being able to work with the tenant to get a great result. Even a bit of a negotiator. You've got to be a good communicator. If you think you're going to do it behind emails and notice letters, it's going to be a nightmare of a result. So I think that's really important when you're selecting your real estate agent to sell your property. Make sure it's someone that's got a great plan with the tenant. And from a tenant's perspective, I think before we sign off, I think as a tenant, if you're getting that news that your property is going to be coming on the market for sale, it is shit news. And sometimes, you've got birthday parties, you've got weddings, you've got Christmas or Easter stuff happening, and you're getting the call from the agent saying it's coming on the market for sale. I think the best thing you can do is, and I'm probably biased in my suggestion, but I think the best thing you can do is just make it as workable for you as possible by communicating what you need out of it. So you may have particular hours that work bad for you, AM or PM, communicate it. You may definitely, it is within your lease, the agent has it. So I think fighting it, saying let's go to tribunal and it's a no for all access, not really going to help anywhere. So I just think as a tenant, just try to heavily communicate that to the agent what you need. Maybe even have a belly-to-belly meeting when they come to the property to take the photos or whatever, as to what works for you with access, with selling of the property.
Yeah, without a doubt. Agreed. Communication is the key. I feel like we say this a lot, Mark.
Big time.
But it's true. It's true.
Yeah. Yep. It's what we do. The more effective we get at it, the better result we get for all parties involved.
Yeah, and we've seen some really, really good results. I'm not talking about sale prices. I mean, just really swift sales, and it's been pleasant for everyone. The worst thing we want to hear as an agent is no access, let's take this to tribunal, because we know the legislation, and it's not only a waste of time for the tenant's money, it's for everyone. It's just really not needed.
No. But Billy, I think we've helped people today, guys and girls. So if you are considering selling your investment property and you have got a tenant in there, should you keep them? Should you not keep them? We've gone through a lot of scenarios today. Hopefully that's helped people.
Yeah. Have a good Tuesday.
Have a good Tuesday, everyone. See ya. Thanks, mate.
Bye.